Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another Cities with John episode. I am Cities Harper, and it's really thrilled to have you along for the ride today as I bring to you episode 3, part 1 of messing with this beach strip area that I've had. First off, I want to give a shout out to Nate Eubank, who made this awesome soundtrack that kicked everything off, and you hear in the background today of Diverse Entertainment. Check them out on SoundCloud.com. Diverse Entertainment, lots of good stuff on there, guys. Great video, great music for Cities videos. Outstanding stuff, and just some great beats all around you can use on just about anything. He is a very talented individual, and loving this beat. Perfect for a Cities video, in my opinion. So first thing first on this, we have a little cove area that has these water suckers. That is the technical name for them. They are water suckers. And I also I noticed that there is a spot here that has some water. The water is kind of, well, there was a water producing spot, I guess it's called. And I'm going to try to get that water out of there, take out the water producing spot, and see if we can get it flowing the right way. So let's check it out, see what happens. All right, so it looks like the water is now flowing into that cove and not out of the cove. It looked really weird having the water flow out of there. And taking out the water suckers there and taking out the water source that was shooting that water out, that would have dried up. And I actually kind of wanted to keep that cove. I thought it looked kind of cool. And that's why I did that, moving those water suckers. So the first thing I did, and I did this not on video, but I threw in this little back road in behind, and here I'm just kind of moving it, getting it out of the glitchville that it was in, and kind of threw in this back road because I thought if this strip gets to the point where it is swole, as the kids say these days, or they might have said in 1999. If it gets to that point, I don't want. I don't want a lot of traffic and traffic jams happening. So far, there hasn't been big traffic issues, but yeah. And then second, I also expanded the main strip road to have bicycle lanes because I figured there's a lot of people that are going to be walking back and forth from this train station that's over here. And the bike lanes allow for bikes to obviously go up and down the road a little bit easier and stay out of the way of traffic. But it also kind of pushed everything back a tad. So here I'm just kind of adjusting these buildings, getting them up off of the road. But a lot of these buildings are not going to survive this part 1, episode 3 Cities with John episode for sure. There is lots of things to consider when you're doing some makeovers to your roads. You're going to run into situations where you might expand the road. If you have your road anarchy on, it's not going to tear your buildings down like on the vanilla game, or you're not going to have to tear the buildings down to do that, but you will have to go through and adjust a lot of roads. And but having this a little bit wider, I think it goes a long way. And I think ultimately, once the population starts getting higher than what it's at right now, I've been kind of stuck at this 40,000. I haven't really I haven't really expanded too much residential. And for right now, I'm kind of keeping the residential off of this strip. I want it to be mostly commercial. So you're talking hotels, restaurants, clubs, souvenir shops, um, everything that I can think of to put in that ties in to the beach. I've been kind of looking at assets online. I found a beach resort that I will be using on this episode, and it's a it's more than just a hotel. It's an actual big resort with a pool, and not the best looking asset in the world, but I kind of make it work, and I add a little bit to it to kind of give it a little bit of love. So this has probably been my most challenging video I've made so far, just because, for one thing, I generally use built-in music to my video editor, and so using an actual track from Nate Eubank at Diverse Entertainment, SoundCloud.com, using Nate's beat, I've kind of had to do a little bit of adjusting. And make a long story short, I have a degree in electronic media. I did a ton of video editing in college, and I'm pretty familiar with a lot of programs, but I haven't really got back into it, video editing that is, the way that more or less I'm just using city skylines in a way. I'm using city skylines to, it's kind of making me like video editing again, and it's kind of like gives me some material to play around with, and it's a lot of fun. But it's a very dumbed down program I'm using. It's basically a Windows video editor, more or less. So putting in custom music, you're having to put in a track back to back to back to back. I think I must have put his song in there 15 times and just put it back to back to back to back. But that's okay. But the biggest challenge of this video was I have an issue with some props. And although I don't really show it on this video, the long story short was I was putting down some umbrellas around one of the hotels that I haven't actually put down just yet, and when I did it, one of the umbrellas I put down, I didn't like the placement of it. To click the bulldoze, instead of moving it, I'm not really sure why I didn't just move it, but click the bulldoze and got rid of it. And when I did, all the props I had laid down in the area had just disappeared. And you read about this sometimes online when you're looking at some city skylines forums about like props disappearing. But for the most part, that's stuff where they're running a system with 8 gigs of RAM, and they have 5,000 assets and 70 mods, and they're got it maxed out with all these graphic mods, and they don't have a graphics card that's capable of all this, and they're wondering why it's not working. But with my case, I couldn't figure it out. I even got online and started reading. I saved the game, came back in, they were there. I lost them again, saved the game, came back in, they weren't there. And couldn't figure out why and where they went. And I could even get on to move it, and I could click where the prop was, and it would make a little blue circle similar to you see every time I'm moving the mouse around. It made a little blue circle like there was something there, but there wasn't. It was invisible. So played around with it. Finally, I ended up, I don't even know what I did. I was moving I was moving some fence or something, and then all of a sudden every single prop that was invisible just appeared. So a couple of lessons I learned from that. I'm not going to use the bulldozer anymore. I'm just going to use MoveIt's bulldozer. I'm not going to use the in-game bulldozer. Probably was not the cause of that, but I'm just kind of like one of those people that's just like, okay, that was involved with the situation. I'm not going to mess with it anymore. I'm just going to move on. That was a challenge because I basically had a massive pause in the middle of this video. The other big challenge with this was trying to find a good combination of these hotels and commercials and putting them all together along this beachfront. And I definitely want to do more with this boardwalk. And here I'm just kind of playing around looking at some assets I've downloaded. Probably doesn't make sense for a giant mall right there. But anyway, I was just kind of checking out a few things and seeing what I could figure out. But I definitely want to do something different with the boardwalk. So I tore down all of those beachfront rental properties that I had put up. And here I'm just trying to find some more unique buildings and things that are ploppable Rico style buildings. And here we have an aquarium, and but it's a very plain aquarium. So on this episode, my main thing is filling out this strip with buildings. The detailing is going to come on my next video, on part 2 of this. One of the portions of this video, I actually had to put the speed up even faster, just because one portion of the video was only almost like 45 minutes, and I was like, well, I don't want to do an hour video, and I really think 30 minutes might be a little too long for some people. And I know that my YouTube attention span sometimes doesn't last 30 minutes even on some of the best city builders out there. So I had to speed it up a little bit faster I'm used to. But sticking with the theme, next to this strip club, I wanted to kind of have another building that was a little on the gaudy side of things. And so I threw down that hot pink building that you saw. It's a country music place, I think. It's a King Leno asset. I think it's in Memphis, Tootsie's or something. The more I look at King Leno's assets, I can tell he's from Memphis, because he's got the Peabody Hotel with the ducks in the lobby and all that, and the FedEx Forum, which is their arena. So not too far from Louisville. So you're just kind of expanding this boardwalk to hug up on that beach resort. That's the beach resort that I was talking about earlier. It's got a tennis court, a couple of swimming pools and stuff. But I'm not really big on the way that the water looks in the, you can see there. I'm not really big on that dark blue, but I do kind of add a little bit to it to kind of give it a little bit more character and kind of hide that water. I even tried at one point taking like the Venetian pool, I have the Oasis pool, the Vegas assets, and just putting it on top of it, but it just never really seemed to work out. And speaking of Vegas assets, some of the Vegas assets I have are very, very large, and I do want to kind of throw in, I'm really tempted to throw in at some point in this series, on this map, on this unnamed city map, I do want to do a casino area, or something, or some sort of area with some casinos. It might be on the strip, who knows. Spring Hill Suites looks good, but I didn't feel like that really matched this area, so I decided to throw down a club. And I've got a couple of these club assets, working one at the end of the strip and then having one here on this corner right next to the hotel, right next to a couple of hotels. It's one of these assets that you're going to get multiple colors when you plop it down. Looking for a white one, and there we go. So yeah, just trying to keep up the adult theme. I'm going to have a few little things that are kind of attractive to families, but I want this to be mostly an adult I don't want to say adult themed, but a beach that is more so for adults than it is for kids. I have plenty of beach space on this map, so in all likelihood, this will not be the only beach on the entire map. This is a pretty large map, and I've only filled up probably, gosh, 50% of it, I would say. And there's a lot of property to still play with. And this is really my first major area that's going to be, look at those people scattering. What happened to the place we were just in? But there's plenty of opportunities for tourism, and as soon as I got that sunken. By the way, another thing, as soon as I added that sunken rail, people started coming in like crazy, and then I connected it to some other train stations in the city, so you could go from one end of the city to the other just using the train station. And I ended up having to delete that line because the traffic got so bad. And so the trains were getting backed up in multiple locations, which were causing the regular traffic to get backed up. And then on top of that, the industrial areas that like my forestry area from the industrial videos, for whatever reason, even though I haven't done much. I haven't expanded that any other than those apartments, those residential apartments that you saw me put up. For some reason, that has gotten crazy busy over there. Like all the roads are backed up, and there's like semi trucks like backed up for days. So, in the middle of all this shenanigans with this beach, I might break off and make my first ever fix-it video on traffic, because at one point my traffic was down like 50%, and on this map I hadn't been down below, I think like 69%, 70%, something like that. It was as low as I'd gone on this map so far. I've been keeping traffic just like really good. I don't really know exactly what the sweet spot is on traffic, but based on a lot of videos that I watch on YouTube and things like that, I mean, most people want to keep their traffic in the 80. Like, I'm just happy with 70, and I guess that's because my first map that I ever did, using no mods, totally vanilla, I was having traffic out the yin yang. I mean, it was just traffic jams everywhere. So it took me a long time to get that figured out, because I didn't. So, where is this person going? Yep. Hey, excuse me, buddy. No. Well, okay. But it took me a while to figure out exactly how the traffic worked, and traffic management, I guess, is a good term for it. You can put in every road in the world, but you gotta be smart about the way you do it. It's funny because on this game, and not really sure exactly how to compare this to anything, but you can't just go along and say, I want 5 lanes going each way, and that's going to solve my traffic problem. In real life, more lanes the better when it comes to a lot of congested, huge city type things. Going into Chicago, you got like 12 lanes on each side, Dan Ryan Expressway type looking stuff. Doesn't work on city skylines. Like if you just start going lane crazy, it doesn't always work that way. You gotta be smart about it. You have to have lane management. You have to, if you have like 2 lanes going into 3 lanes, that might work. But if you have like 2 lanes going into 3 lanes, and then it goes into 2 lanes again, then to 4 lanes, you're gonna have all sorts of issues, especially if you have like exits and big clover leaves and things of that nature. When you start doing that, you've got to just be smart and have turning lanes set up and all that. So here you're seeing a lot of tweaking, and I decided to keep a lot of these buildings. They've been there since I first started the map, and I really like the looks of several of them. So this is just really tweaking up where those buildings are, and then just kind of adding in additional buildings in between them, that just kind of makes sense for the surrounding area. So earlier in the video, you saw the surf shop, of course the beach resort, several different clubs. Here I'm putting in a parking garage that kind of fits rather nicely right next to the hotel there. Almost looks like they're connected. So I really like the looks of that, and even for good measure, throwing in a junction on the road to make that look a little bit more like it's actually more realistic looking. And immediately cars start going in there. Of course, half of them kind of float in there, but that's beside the point. This building here with the two flags in front of it is a residential building, and I didn't realize that. I thought it was a hotel, but when I realized it was residential, it has like 100 people. I think there's more than 100 living in it, and I was like, crap, I don't really want to tear this down, because when you do that, those people just scatter, and I don't really know what exactly they do. I guess they're homeless beach bums, but I decided not to tear it down. But I do end up kind of doing some relocation with it, and it looks enough like a hotel that I was like, we can keep it on this strip. So here, kind of adding in a little bit of the family-friendly stuff. So having this merry-go-round, which is a asset that comes with Park Life DLC, and good thing about your prop and tree anarchy and all that, you can plop down like the merry-go-round and still be able to put buildings very close to it. So it doesn't just have to have its own space. It can be surrounded by other things. You can add additional playground equipment, or maybe like a balloon cart, or something like that. But yeah, so kind of just going through, thickening up, trying to figure out exactly how I want to finish off the strip. And here you see, as I was saying, getting this residential moved, and I do really like that building, and I think it looks really cool, and I didn't want to get rid of it. I didn't want all those people to lose their house, lose their home. So I decided to keep it, and because I do believe it does look enough like a hotel that it's worth keeping, in my opinion. So I just went with it, moved it down the strip a little bit, and in a moment I'm going to put another bricked hotel next to it. So you're looking for a gas station. I didn't want to use the Shell that I've used multiple times, and didn't really want to use the BP that I've used a couple of different times. I've got a couple of different Shells, but I've used them both. So here I was looking for my 7-Eleven, and plopping that bad boy right there. Fits perfect right next to the hotels. And 7-Elevens, we don't have any here in Louisville, but I don't know, sometimes they're in, there's 7-Elevens everywhere, but it seems like every time I see them, they're very ran down. No offense to 7-Eleven, but maybe it's just a couple experiences I had. I don't know. I just think this looks better for this strip, keeping with this theme of having some kind of not so family friendly. This isn't going to be like a Disney World, this is or a fun family beach scene. This is more of a time they go to the club, they go to the beach. So yeah, anyway, that's kind of what I've been thinking that this is kind of being. So, but it fits perfectly there. And here I'm just kind of taking some buildings, putting them back to back to back again. This is all being done thanks to Move It and the powerful Move It mod, where you can just create your own building. So there you got like a building that's, I'll call it tucked in. Once again, we have a car that is what we have a flying car. Nope, still flying. Right into the hotel. Somebody ordered Jimmy John's room service. They just went straight to the window. Yeah. Going back to trying to find the right combination of buildings. Kind of having some coastal looking buildings, but also having brick buildings. And this Hometown Suites, I believe it's called, I've had that for a long time. I've never used it, but as I was saying, I sped up this portion, and because I just kept trying to go through and find more and more buildings that made sense, and found 3 that I thought kind of worked together. Put them in between this volleyball court that does not last long. And this is about the point where when I started getting into doing a few little decorations around this hotel here, that's when I first noticed some of the props going away. I don't think you see it on this video. And I debated if I was going to actually try to record it and make it something, something that would maybe I could post and try to figure out maybe in some forums on YouTube or something. But I just had not to worry about it, and plus I ended up fixing it, which was a miracle because I thought I wasn't going to be able to. But here's something I really like doing is just repurposing buildings. So you got a Starbucks that by itself looks fine, but if you put it inside of a brick building like so, it looks like it's even just supposed to be part of that building. It's not necessarily, even though it's a standalone building, it doesn't really look like it. So I think that looks really cool. And I went ahead and just tore down the volleyball court, throwing in a little parking area here, and then just kind of readjusting and making sure all this kind of flows together nicely. When you're building any city, especially in the detailing mod community of city skylines, gaps between buildings are kind of your enemy in a way, because especially in city areas or highly populated areas, there's not just going to be a grassy surface in between some buildings. It's going to have something. So here I'm just using the sidewalk to kind of give it that little something to kind of build around, fill it up, add some little trees and some shrubbery, and that allows me to just make it look a little bit, adding a little bit more levels of realism. And the more stuff you add, overall, generally speaking, the better you end up having your overall city look, and that's what we're ultimately looking. This little bare spot in between these buildings here is a perfect spot to throw down some walls and some fencing. All those buildings kind of sharing the same backyard per se, so they all might have the same amount of, or I wouldn't say the same amount, but they don't mind looking at each other's trash, but we don't want people in that parking lot to look over and see the back of these buildings and be like, gosh, what a mess. So they're in a little wall there, so people don't actually get to peek in and see what's in behind there. And then I'm just kind of using a few props and some bushes and things like that to fill it up where it doesn't look as bare. Love using the network fences. It's a lot easier. And then you can tie them in using props like I'm doing right here with this gate. So the prop actually, even though it's not a network connection, you can just put it at the end of the network wall, and it looks like it's all part of the same thing, even though it's not really part of the same thing. And I think that really, adds those just little level details, those little touches that can make a difference. Appreciate you watching, guys. I hope you have a great evening. Don't forget to check out Nate Eubank, producer of this song. It's so nice. DiverseEntertainmentSoundCloud.com. Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming along for the ride. And we'll see you on part 2.